To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Indivisible is the right word. Indivisible. Okay, I don't know why this meeting was called, but I let it go forward because it's a good idea to meet, first of all, to see the old timers on the Public Employee Building Committee and say thank you for all the time and effort that you put in on our behalf and the excellent work that's come as a result of it. And secondly, to meet the new proposed members. But what we're going to do is, the mayor isn't here, I'm in charge. So we're going to deviate from his suggestion. We're going to make the appointments at our regular monthly meeting, which will take place immediately following this one at 5:30. Okay, so who are your new members? Want to introduce them?
Sure. Mark Romano, and the other is Jason Neves.
That's right.
Both are builders. Both are builders.
Both are builders. Excellent. Thank you for.
Mark's a little better than I am.
Yeah.
Just older,
So,
just older.
yeah, yeah,
Not better.
Does he have more credentials or more money?
both.
Neither.
He's got both. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, say hello to Bill Bamford, who's been on the committee since before I was born.
Wow.
And,
That was a late.
you know, Bill's got a huge background in education and did tremendous things for many years up there, but thank God he's still here with us. And thank God he's still serving Shelton. Thank you, Bill.
Very,
You
very good.
deserve a round of applause.
Yeah.
We'll never get any money, but round of applause.
Double your pay.
You deserve a
Zero,
round of
zero, zero.
We're saving Bernie. Bernie come in, he knew nothing about this building stuff. Bill taught him everything he knows. So-
10 minutes later, we went out for coffee.
Everyone needs a sidekick.
Excuse me, Chairman.
Yes,
I believe the town clerk is planning to swear them in before 5:30. So,
before 5:30.
yeah,
Well,
We got a quorum.
The alderman couldn't appoint you if we wanted to right now because we don't have a quorum,
right.
unless we got five,
We got five.
We have 5. We have 5.
We have 5 aldermen.
2, 3, 4.
Lorenzo's on.
Good evening, I'm present.
Okay.
Oh, plus
Jason,
Bernie's here.
Eric's there.
Yeah, Bernie's there.
No, Eric is not.
Yeah, but
No,
there's.
we have 6.
6. We have
We have
6.
6.
So, and it's on the agenda. As item number 1, so we'll do it. All right, let's do it. Who wants to make the motion? Motion will be in order.
I'll make the motion that
No,
we can.
You can, yes, you can. You
Well,
can.
maybe just to make sure nobody gets goofed up.
Yeah.
You want to make the motion just so there's no controversy over this?
Are you
I'll make
talking
the
about this motion?
Make the motion, please.
Yeah.
Item number 1.
Item number 1, move to appoint the following people to the Public Improvement Building Committee effective immediately. Mark Romano, 6 Franz Way, Shelton, Connecticut. Mr. Jason Neves, 22 Cobblestone Drive, Shelton.
There's a second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. During discussion. Any discussion?
Nope.
Any discussion? Okay, all those, no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
So ordered unanimously. Congratulations and thank you very much. Appreciate.
You guys can go down and get started. Go down, city clerk.
Um,
And then we'll come back in here?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that would be your choice, but.
Now, the second item on the agenda is the new multi-purpose turf field at High School, a presentation And who's going to make this presentation?
The people from the turf field company are
All
here.
right. And could you kindly state your name and address and introduce yourself at the podium? Right.
You want me to, or you want us to stand up here to do the presentation?
Whichever you think is more.
Whatever's more comfortable. We could sit down with you as well, but Andrew Dijak, Regional Vice President for Field Turf.
And Chris Holcomb, the Director of Design and Construction for Field Turf.
Director of what?
Design and Construction.
Design, eh?
Maybe you could come.
Yeah, come on up
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, two-sided. And what you've done is you've given us these things.
Yeah.
Oh.
You can see why we're not using the TV there.
Yeah.
Nobody can see it.
Every time I look up, you're on there.
I hope I'm not blinding them.
No.
Yeah.
So, you just talk to the.
Yeah, probably, yes.
Make sure they're on.
Yes, to transcribe it.
It's on. Well,
There you
Yeah, it's on.
Right, well, first of all, I appreciate having us here tonight. We've been, Chris, myself, and some other members of the Shelton community, Mayor, Bernie, some other folks, have been working towards a plan, because there was initial RFP that went out for design services. And what we do, what our company does, is we do not only the design, but also the manufacturing of all the materials, and then also the construction of it as well. And the way we can do that in the state of Connecticut is that we're on the CREC Cooperative Purchase Agreement. So everything that we talk about tonight in terms of pricing, everything we talk about tonight in terms of design has already been vetted by the state of Connecticut, which partners with 37 other different states to pre-bid a variety of different items. But mainly what we go over is anything that has to do with a field, a turf, a track, lights, and then anything that's associated with those type of features. So the goal, of the meeting for us tonight are kind of tell you a little bit about ourselves, go through kind of how the process works that we've done in other municipalities. And then what Chris is going to do is he's going to dig into the specifics and go down kind of a list, a laundry list of exactly, what the scope of the project could be. And then also the associated pricing. And these are real prices. These are not, pricing that we did in the back of an envelope. These have already been vetted by the state of Connecticut. And Chris does a great job doing the design work. So and I'm just going to kind of talk, but you can peruse the first couple of pages of the handout. The name of our company is Field Turf. We are an international company. We have revenues of over $1 billion a year. And we have manufacturing plants all over the world. But the one that serves us is right outside of Atlanta, Georgia. We're a manufacturing plant that's triple ISO certified, which means that we have national certifications in quality, the environment, and occupational safety. And we're the only synthetic turf manufacturer to have one. That's in
Location in Georgia.
Dalton or Calhoun.
Calhoun.
Yeah, it was in Dalton, now it's in Calhoun, Georgia. So we've done a tremendous amount of work in the athletic fields, larger term, throughout the country, throughout New England, but also in the state of Connecticut. We currently do on average about 20 to 25 projects a year in the state of Connecticut. We've done every single Division I school in the state of Connecticut. So projects like Central Connecticut State, University of Connecticut, Fairfield University, Sacred Heart, Quinnipiac University are all our clients. We also do projects at the high school level. We do a tremendous amount of work with athletic directors, parks and recreation departments, and basically anybody that's interested in athletic surfacing. Our scopes that we do internally are synthetic turf. We also build tracks, and we also build tennis courts and basketball courts as well. So again, the way we go about doing these projects is that the state of Connecticut grants each municipality in the state to use what they call their contracts that they've already bid out nationally. And so the benefit to the municipality, the benefit to Shelton would be that, one, you get a heavily discounted rate for what a standard project would be because you're buying in economies of scale. The second thing is since we have in-house design services, that you are not paying an additional third-party person to do the design work. So a project like this, and Barney could jump in here if I'm talking out of school, but the bids for engineering came in between 40 and 50,000, maybe something like
In that
that.
area, yeah.
So the standard design fee for a project like this would be in the $50,000 range. We don't charge for that. So right off the bat, you say $50,000 that can be put towards the project at any piece. The other thing that this process does is it saves time. So instead of having multiple people working on it and then doing a local bid, and then if the bids come in higher and then rebid, it saves about almost 6 or 9 months in the project process. And with inflationary pressure, 6 or 9 months could be anywhere between like 3 and 5%. So you're not only saving the upfront 50,000, you're also saving up to about 5% in the total project cost, which is pretty exciting, for us. And this is the way we do a tremendous amount of our work. The next page shows some references. So the references are, just to be kind of clear, the references are just places in Connecticut, just through the cooperative purchasing agreement, and just within the last couple of years. So we've done literally in the hundreds of projects just in the state of Connecticut using this process. And we've been obviously fully vetted and have a tremendous amount of references. Flipping over one more page, one of the things that, somebody have a question?
No,
Oh.
it's just somebody.
One of the things that we had a deficit in up until a couple of years ago was what happens at the end of the useful life of the fields. So after 10 or 15 years, what happens to the field? Well, the industry standard and what we used to do is you used to just throw the field out, put it in put it in a dumpster, put it in a landfill, and then there it goes. So we've completely changed that. So right now, each one of our replacement projects has a net zero carbon emissions output, which is kind of very important. And then we also take every field that we remove and we ship it down to a facility that we have in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. We separate the infill from the carpet. And then in the infill, we separate the sand, and there's different sizes of rubber. And we separate that and we clean it and put it in bags. And what we do is we reuse that infill for different projects. Also, the carpet goes to a sister company of ours and gets turned into plastic boards, like plastic decking, almost like glorified Trex decking. One of the first projects we did with getting a certificate for this type of process was Gillette Stadium, when we most recently replaced that field. The field that we took out was 100% recycled. And you do get a certificate saying that everything was recycled, which is pretty important on our end. So I think that gave you I could talk for 2 hours about Field Turf, but I think that gave you kind of a quick overview of who we are, what other kind of projects we've done, how we went about the design process, and then how you can get your project done at the quickest amount of time possible, but also for the most efficient and effective, and also at the lowest cost. So from there, I'm going to turn over to Chris, and he's going to dig into the nuts and bolts of how he got to the pricing, how he reviewed your facilities, how he did the design, and kind of what led into our proposal. Unless anybody has any questions. All right, thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Andrew. Again, so I'm Chris Hulk. I'm the Director of Design and Construction. I'm a licensed professional engineer here in Connecticut. So we've been working over the last several months to come up with multiple different designs for the facility. We visited this facility multiple different times. We reviewed all the available mapping. We're very familiar with everything that happens on the site, how the uses go, and how the process of these fields were built. So everyone's aware the way that these projects need to happen is, all of the topsoil that's on the sites need to be removed. It's an organic material, so what happens is it breaks down if you put the carpet on top of it, so it gets all lumpy. So we basically need to remove that. Then we fine grade the field on the subgrade, put in drainage piping on either side of the field to collect the storm water. Luckily here we have an area where we can tie into the existing storm drainage that's on the sides, so we don't have to ship it somewhere else from the site. We would then bring in our dynamic stone base and fine grade that. Then we put together what's called a concrete turf anchor curb. It's about a 12 by 18 inch or 12 inch by 12 inch, depending on where it's going. Concrete curb that the turf actually gets attached to, and it holds all the stone in place and makes it so the field doesn't shift around and has the longevity that you need to be able to maintain something like this. We did put together, there's lots of different options that go into a field like this, but in general, every field that we do needs to meet certain criteria for us to be able to maintain the warranty for a project like this, which varies from 8 to 10 years, depending on the type of product you use. I believe here we're looking at about, I think is it 10 years or will it be 8
We're
years?
looking at the 8-year, but you could upgrade.
So a turf system like the one that we're going to be proposing should last in the 12 to 15 year range, warranty being for the 8 years. But we have a set of standards that we've developed based on the number of projects that we've done that we kind of have to meet. Things like the hardness of the stone, how things get graded, the amount of stone that goes in, the type of turf, type of concrete, those kinds of things. So it makes it so you guys have a long lasting project that's not gonna fall apart on you. Because we go through this correct co-op process and we do so many of these, we have trusted site partners that build basically all of our fields for us. So it's not something where Joe Schmo is gonna come in and say, oh, I've built a road, I can build a field. Like, we have specific people who build our fields for us. And we do the in-house turf installation, in-house design, in-house maintenance of the fields and all that kind of stuff. So looking at your facility, some of the things that jumped out to us are, it's a pretty. So there's, some potential to improve ADA accessibility to the site. Currently there's a 4 or 6 foot tall fence around the site. It's pretty well graded field, not too steep, not too flat. So that works pretty well. It is situated between 2 steep slopes and trees on one side. But based on the actual layout of the field and what's currently there, it'll fit nicely to have a nice new field. So we then looked at a couple of different concepts. We based these concepts on being able to have multiple different levels of field and sizes of field to be able to fit here. Football, soccer, field hockey, lacrosse. And then one of the things that we made sure that we wanted to do was we made the field wide enough that perpendicular to the game fields, you could have 2 youth games going on at the same time on either side of the field. On the page here with the orange and the black shows a layout with kind of a bunch of different options. One for improved ADA accessibility, some improved seating into the walls, the field, potentially have ball netting on the ends, fencing, all those kinds of things. Knowing that, this is a project that we want to be able to facilitate you guys having what you want, we basically made it the pricing wise, so it's like the field, and then every other thing that could be added in to kind of make it so it's functions how you need it to function. You may not necessarily need a ball netting, you may not necessarily need a fence, but we wanted to put all the options in there so you guys could have the options to choose from. On the next page, on the new Shelton Athletics field, is a 3D rendering based off of the site plans that we've currently done. Kind of the base plan for the field. So you see how it kind of fits in nicely to the overall site. It would be, size for football, size for lacrosse, field hockey, soccer, everything that you guys need and want to grow into and help to promote even the youth programs. One of the things that's really special about how the synthetic turf fields operate is that, a couple weeks from now, teams are going to be wanting to get out there and they're not going to be able to use that field. They probably won't be able to use it for several months, probably miss the majority of their season. Same sort of thing when you get to the end of the fall season, you might look great for the first couple of weeks in fall, and then by the time you get to the end of it, it's very hard to keep it up, keep it playable, but the synthetic turf fields, what we really like to call them, is all weather fields. You can basically be out there as much as you want. I'm sure you guys are familiar with how the track and field is up at the other side of the site. Lots of increased playability, and what we find a lot of times is once one of these fields go in, the teams really benefit from it because the practice time and the time, there's no lost time from being on the field. We do have, multiple different options for pricing with alternates. The major difference being the paved access is coming down the field, the athletic field lighting, fall netting, nice terraced wall, seating area, those kinds of things. And then to just kind of get into the nuts and bolts of the pricing breakdown. So what we have seen over the last couple of years is there has been a significant increase in the cost of materials, the cost of construction and building these things. Not last year, but the year before, there was about a 15 to 20% increase in just overall inflationary costs. So we have seen that the pricing of these things has creeped up over the years. So, this is based on the, updated Connecticut correct co-op pricing. So on the base price here, you can see we have the turnkey design build services. So me doing the design in-house would include all the removal and disposal of the existing topsoil, the fencing, capping the irrigation system that's out there, installation of all the drainage system, laser grading the field, putting in the concrete anchor curb and the football goal posts, putting in all the stone base material, laser grading it, getting it all ready, and putting in the synthetic turf field. And then at the end, we would restore the site as needed. One of the things I wanted to point out was what Andrew mentioned earlier, that being the in-house designer, we're able to basically donate the design services. We do anywhere from, said about 15 to 25. Realistically, like we've designed hundreds of these throughout the country. We do thousands, or about 1,000 a year. So very streamlined process for us. It's very easy to do for us internally, so we don't need to necessarily charge you for those. So the co-op pricing kind of allows us to donate that portion of it. So in here, we put in a bunch of different alternates for things that would kind of be sort of upgrades to the facility. Bonds is, performance and payment bonds. Some municipalities say, we're sort of $1 billion company, you've been around forever, like we don't need bonds from you. Other places are like, we require bonds for everything. So we just break that one out as a separate one. We put in a 4-foot high black vinyl chain link fencing around the facility. We think that one's usually an important one to do. It is something you could potentially add later. But in all actuality, what ends up happening is you spend, $1 million+ on the field and you don't have the ability to close it down or protect it. So you can end up with people out there with dirt bikes or dogs walking on it or whatever the case may be. So the fencing gives you a nice ability to kind of have a little more security for your field. The way the ball netting goes is there is the sleeves that go into the ground. Those could be installed separately and not necessarily need the whole netting system, which would be all of the poles and all of the nets and all the other stuff that goes with that. So we broke those two as separate. The netting is basically 20 foot tall, goes behind the end zones. So soccer balls aren't getting kicked down the road and lacrosse balls aren't whacking people in the back of the head. So usually facilities are having those now. Then we broke out things that, knowing that lighting is something that's really important for a field like this. We broke out the pricing to do the conduit underneath the field that would go to all the light poles, the installation of the light pole bases themselves. Those bases themselves, they come in pre-manufactured posts and they get drilled about 15 to 20 feet into the ground. So they're pretty substantial. Also broke out what the actual lighting installation costs would be to be able to service the field. And then those kind of nice to haves of the paved access coming down to the field and around and underground one side of the field. A nice what we call a terrace wall seating area, kind of built into that slope that you have there would be like a 3-foot wall, then a platform, 3-foot wall platform. So it gives you a nice spot where people can watch it. One of the nice things about this particular setup is being how it's set down from the parking lot, you do get a really nice vantage point from the upper portion of it. So we thought that trying to build in some sort of seating or at least have an option for that would be good. And then we have, the last one there being an upgrade to we call our elite level turf. That would be the turf that's at Gillette Stadium or at Yale or something like that. Knowing that you have two, maybe you can get away with, our kind of called middle line system, which, will last the same 12, 15 years. The elite level, get 15 pretty easily with, minimal maintenance. We do provide maintenance equipment as part of the overall project. But all in all, I'd say, we looked at this from multiple different aspects, and for fields with fencing, ball netting, and the foundations for the lights and electrical, we're a little under 1.7. If you want basically just a standard field, it'll be in that 1.3 range. And then if you do want to add the lights on or add other things, you can always do that at a later date or afterwards. So we try to break that all down for you so you guys have options for what you could select. The preceding couple of pages is a little bit more of, how the field gets built, some of the fields that are around that we've done, like Bethel and Trumbull and Wilbur Cross, bunch of, lots of projects around the surrounding area. And then a couple snippets of some of the site plans that go together for the existing conditions, the actual plans, all the details and stuff that are associated with it. We did do about 3 or 4 different iterations of these. This just happens to be the one with the rectangular field. And then the last page is a little bit about how the LED lighting system works. You may be familiar with what's called a metal highlight system. So like kind of the big circular lights, they kind of spread light everywhere. And the way those were always working is that they would basically
Eric McPherson.
Joined the meeting.
So they push the light out in hopes of covering everything because they were not very efficient. The LED lighting systems are extremely efficient and very specific to the field locations. So they're very low energy usage, but they would be able to last. I think the warranty that comes with those is 25 years. And it would be like a must-go type system. So you have one operator on site. But that's kind of our spiel. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have about any of this. But just to kind of reiterate one last time, like we do these projects 30 or 40 of them.
Bit of softball.
Let the record show.
Yeah, let me jump in here. In the interest of time, we do have another meeting right after this, so we're gonna cut this short. The goal tonight was to get this project in front of the Board of Aldermen so they can understand just exactly what it is that we're doing and the costs associated with it. I've asked them to break this out in alternates so that we can pick and choose what we want to do this year. You may not be aware of this, and you may be aware of this, but there's a number of large capital requests that are coming our way for next budget year. So that all has to be sorted out. $2.2 million for a roof on a school, another $1.5 million for this project. There's fire engines that are coming in, that another $2 million. And that has to be all laid out so that, we can fund it, and it will be, but we're just not ready to talk about that now. And so again, I asked them to put all these alternates together so you understand that some of the stuff may get done next year, some of it may get done. We may put the lights in a year from now, something like that. I'm just giving you an example. So unless there isn't any other questions.
I just had one. When we originally looked at this also, we had a softball field designed into that. I didn't see it on these. That disappeared, or what happened to it?
So we did look at that as an option. And through some of the internal discussions, it seemed like trying to get the cost down to a palatable number was more of a driving factor. The softball could always be added on. Will be kind of a bump out, and some of the things that get added with that is dugouts, backstop.
Again, Bernie, I'm the culprit here. I asked them not to include that at this point. We have a softball facility.
I just wanted to make
until
sure,
we're
just
prepared-
because I don't admit it by accident. That's
When
all.
we're prepared financially to do all these things, we may include that at a later date, and it's not gonna be much more.
Sure.
If I may, real quick, you say 12 to 15 years. What is that usage? Every day? Twice a day, 3 times a day? What would we wearing it down?
Yeah, we base that on about 40 hours of play a week.
Okay.
And we do provide maintenance training for, facility staff, provide the whole lot of equipment. The maintenance is grooming once every 6 to 8 weeks, so roughly once a season. And then just making sure you keep an eye on the high use areas, so goal creases and things like that. So infill isn't getting fully displaced and you're getting down to like the backing of the turf, which is sprinkles in there, hit it with a broom.
Thank you.
Couple of our members on the phone, so if you want to leave your extra copies of.
You can have.
Anybody else have anything with regard to the field here?
No.
All right, again, this
Nice
will be
presentation.
back before you in short order.
Yeah, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
We appreciate yours too. Thank you.
So move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.